It often begins the same way. She doesn't look at you for who you truly are, but for who she envisions you could become. There's something in her gaze, isn't there? A subtle spark. Perhaps it's hope, or maybe it's hunger. You believe you're being recognized, seen at your core, but that's an illusion. You're not being seen. You're being evaluated. Examined, scanned, judged, as though you were a blank canvas awaiting her brushstrokes. But the masterpiece she intends to create is not you. It never was. Carl Jung cautioned against this, not in the sugar-coated tones of self-help gurus, but with the cold, incisive clarity of a man who spent a lifetime charting the depths of the human psyche. Jung dedicated his life to understanding the unconscious, the hidden landscape of the mind that shapes our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors without our conscious awareness. And in that hidden terrain, he uncovered something unsettling about women. He found that they don't necessarily fall in love with real men. They fall for the image, the projection, the fantasy. And perhaps most disturbing of all, many of them don't even realize they're doing it. You might believe she's selecting you, but in truth, she's choosing the version of you she's constructed in her imagination, a psychological character designed to fit her personal mythology. And the moment you diverge from the role she's cast for you, she won't rewrite the story, she'll simply replace the actor. Jung named this process projection, and within women he identified a particular projection called the Animus, the inner masculine image dwelling in the female unconscious. When this Animus is immature or unchecked, it doesn't guide, it dominates. It becomes tyrannical, compelling women toward reckless choices, rejecting the kind, embracing the dangerous, moralizing without introspection, and arguing without clarity. Jung didn't soften his diagnosis. He described it as a kind of spiritual possession, a psychological state in which the woman ceases to act from conscious will and instead becomes governed by the internalized male figure within her. And men, you fall into this trap because no one ever taught you to recognize it. You confuse desire with understanding, attention with intimacy. You believe her when she says you're special, but in truth you're just the latest actor filling a role she's been rehearsing since childhood. And when that illusion disintegrates, when her mask slips, you're left disoriented, wounded, humiliated. You'll ask yourself what mistake you made, but the truth is, you made none. You simply failed to continue playing the character she imagined. Jung taught that the only escape from this psychological drama lies in a journey he called individuation, the lifelong pursuit of becoming whole and fully integrated within oneself. But here's the painful truth: most men never even begin that journey. From a young age, you're conditioned to seek affirmation, to win praise, to let others, especially women, define your worth. And so, you find yourself trapped in a cycle, playing the same character over and over, only to be replaced each time the script changes. But individuation isn't romantic or glamorous, it's excruciating. It demands that you confront the weakest, most fragmented parts of yourself, the insecurity, the fear, the hidden wounds. It requires you to stop blaming women for not seeing you, and instead to finally see yourself. Because here is what Jung understood, what most men will never grasp. You don't become a man by being chosen, you become a man by choosing yourself. Your value is not conferred upon you by her affection. It is earned by standing alone, self-aware, self-reliant, fully conscious. A man who has explored the dark terrain of his unconscious cannot be fooled by projection. He's no longer a pawn in someone else's fantasy. He becomes the author of his own existence. Jung saw that the great tragedy of modern masculinity is not rejection, it's the willingness to shape oneself into whatever form one believes will be accepted. You call it love, you call it compromise. Jung called it something else, self-betrayal. He warned that a man who ignores his own inner development becomes enslaved by the feminine projection, reshaping himself like pliable clay to fit the desires of women who themselves are unaware of what they truly want. You stop being a man. You become a mask, smiling, agreeing, performing, until you forget who you were before you put it on. And women, they can feel it far more deeply than you realize. The very behaviors you think will make her love you, compliance, consistency, availability, are often what extinguish her desire. Why? Because the feminine instinct, as Jung explained, is not drawn to safety, it's drawn to mystery, to the man she cannot fully decode or dominate. Reveal yourself too completely, offer no boundaries, no backbone, and you don't become more lovable. You become invisible, replaceable. And here lies the cruel paradox. Most men fear solitude more than inauthenticity. You'd rather lose yourself than lose her. You'd rather act than stand in silence. But Jung taught that freedom begins the moment a man embraces that solitude. He wrote that individuation requires a symbolic death, the death of your false selves, so that your authentic self may finally emerge. And here's the part no one wants to admit. Individuation is not only difficult, it is isolating. As you walk that path, you start to perceive the illusions others are still clinging to. You see the roles they play, the lies they recite, the masks they refuse to remove. And when you try to share your vision, they mock you. They say you've changed, that you're arrogant, that you're too serious. But you're not the problem. You're the mirror. And people hate mirrors when they reflect truths they're not ready to face. Jung knew this intimately. He spent years studying patients paralyzed by their own shadow, the repressed parts of the psyche they couldn't bear to acknowledge. And women, he observed, are often raised in societies that celebrate their disconnection from that inner darkness. They're told they are naturally pure, intuitive, emotionally complete, but Jung saw through that illusion. He argued that the greatest psychological threat to women was their disowned animus, the false, domineering inner voice masquerading as moral authority. If she fails to integrate it, she becomes ruled by it, projecting it onto every man she meets, blaming them for the inner war she refuses to confront. And here you are, thinking you're the exception, thinking that if you just love her deeply enough, perform admirably enough, prove yourself tirelessly enough, she'll finally choose you for who you truly are. But projection doesn't work that way. Jung warned that projection is a thief. It steals the real and replaces it with illusion. And until both men and women awaken from these illusions, they will keep reenacting the same psychological tragedy, forever blaming each other, never realizing they're dancing with ghosts. The cruel twist: the woman who once idolized you as her hero will one day cast you as her villain. Not because you changed, but because you failed to live up to the fantasy she never admitted she projected onto you. Jung called this betrayal inevitable when neither person claims ownership of their inner world. You didn't deceive her, you didn't fail her, you simply weren't the character her unconscious had scripted. And that's why she resents you, not for your faults, but for not being the myth she silently expected you to embody. Jung once remarked, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." Nowhere is this more tragically evident than in romantic relationships. Two people enter not as whole beings, but as bundles of projections, dragging unmet needs, suppressed fears, and unresolved childhood pain into a bond they barely comprehend. You call it love, Jung called it possession. And like a man sleepwalking, you keep stepping into the same trap, believing this time will be different. But it won't. Until you ask the most frightening question of all, what if I am the one responsible for this pattern? You want to blame women, accuse them of manipulation, of emotional games. But Jung would look you in the eye and ask, why did you allow yourself to be chosen by such a woman? Because the man who refuses to confront his own inner feminine remains a prisoner to hers. You are not a victim, you are a volunteer. You willingly stepped into the role because confronting your inner void was more terrifying than playing someone else's fantasy. And this is where most men retreat, because here the comfort ends and the real work begins. Jung didn't offer quick fixes, no formulas for dominance or instant success. He demanded inner transformation, the courage to sit alone with your pain until the illusions begin to crumble, until the voice in your head that says you're worthless without her finally dies. And that voice will fight back. It will whisper that you need her, that you're incomplete alone, that no man can live without feminine affection. But Jung's deeper wisdom says otherwise. The man who stands without applause, without validation, without dependency, is the one who is truly free. Free from projection, free from performance, free from the prison of living as someone else's idea of a man. And in reaching that place, you don't become cold. You become real. You become grounded, whole, and unmistakably alive. Ironically, that's when women feel the deepest attraction, not because you need them, but because you don't. And when you realize this, something shifts. You begin to see her differently, not as someone to rescue, not as someone to impress, but as another soul on her own path. She must face her own animus. She must wake from her own dream, and that's not your battle to fight. The only thing you can do is what Jung did. Walk your own path with such courage and clarity that you become a living mirror, showing others the truth, should they dare to look. Most won't, but a rare few will, and those few will thank you. That's the difference between being loved for a role and being honored for your reality. And when you finally drop the script, when you no longer need to perform, people will feel it. They won't know what to call it, but your presence will unsettle them. You no longer fit into the neat boxes that make them feel safe. Jung warned, the individuated man is not embraced by society. He is feared, labeled distant, called arrogant, but the truth, you've simply become untouchable. Because you've seen the game? And here's the strange irony. The same people who once demanded your attention, who once begged for your validation, will grow resentful when they realize they no longer control you. Especially women who are still entranced by the myth of the ideal man. They'll say you're distant, too logical, too aloof. But what they really mean is you've stepped off their stage, you've stopped reading their lines. And without the script, they don't know how to interact with you because you're no longer playing a part. You are simply a man. Jung once mused that what were once gods are now psychological disorders, that what ancient cultures called divine possession, modern psychiatry calls neurosis, and men chasing validation, they are spiritually ill. You say things like, "I'd do anything for her," or "she's my whole world," and think it's love, but Jung would shake his head. What you call love is actually a refusal to carry your own soul. You've made her the bearer of your meaning, your worth, your hope, because if she carries it, you don't have to. But here's the twist of fate. No woman, no matter how nurturing, can carry what you refuse to bear. And when she realizes this, she will set it down. She has to. And when she does, you'll feel abandoned. But that moment is your gift, because now finally you stand before the truth. The journey of becoming a man was never hers to complete. It was always yours. And in that raw, unfiltered clarity, you're left with two paths. You can blame her. You can grow bitter. Join the chorus of angry men who vilify women and wallow in self-pity. Or you can do what Jung would have demanded. You can turn inward and begin the long, sacred, terrifying work of individuation, becoming whole, not by being loved, but by loving the truth. Please like, share, and subscribe for more videos.